My name is Mia. I'm 17, and I want to tell you about the exact moment I stopped believing I was ever truly part of my family. It didn't happen overnight. It was like a slow unraveling, a thread pulled tighter and tighter until one day it just snapped. I always felt out of place, like a puzzle piece that got jammed into the wrong box. My parents, Rachel and Eric, are those kinds of people that look like they stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. Perfect smiles, fit bodies, a coordinated family wardrobe. Even their laughs sounded rehearsed, like a Hallmark movie that never ended. And then there's me. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when I was 8. My body started betraying me early. The weight crept on no matter how hard I tried. My parents put me on food restrictions that felt less like care and more like punishment. I wasn't allowed to eat what the rest of the family ate. I had to sneak snacks in the middle of the night like I was stealing from them, like survival was shameful. I remember sitting on the cold bathroom floor once, eating dry cereal out of a Ziploc bag, tears running down my cheeks because I was just hungry. They said they were trying to help. I wanted to believe them. And then came the fibromyalgia diagnosis 6 months ago. Chronic pain, constant fatigue, random flare-ups that made me feel like my body was being torn from the inside. And on really bad days, I needed a wheelchair to get around. That was when things shifted. I wasn't just the chubby daughter anymore. I was now the disabled one, the one that slowed everything down, the one that ruined the aesthetic. At least, that's how they made me feel. My younger brother, Ethan, he's adopted. They brought him into our home when I was around 8 and he was 6. I loved him instantly. He was shy, curious, and funny in a soft way. We were close for years. But somewhere around the time I started needing more help, he started pulling away. I don't blame him, not entirely. Kids notice things. He saw how our parents treated me, how they praised him for everything and barely looked at me unless it was to correct or control something. It's hard to stay close when someone you love starts pretending you're invisible. But the real breaking point came 3 weeks ago. Every year, we send out this elaborate Christmas postcard. We all dress in coordinated colors, smiling in front of the fireplace while our golden retriever, Max, wears a stupid Santa hat. It's always been cheesy, but for me, it was tradition. One of the last things that made me feel like part of this family, even if only in print. So, like every other year, I put on the red dress my mom had bought for me. I curled my hair, added a little blush, desperate to look like I belonged. I wheeled myself into the living room, smiling nervously, trying to ignore the flare-up burning in my hips. But the second my mom saw me, the temperature in the room dropped. "Oh," she said, glancing at my dad. "We thought, maybe just the 3 of us this year?" I blinked. "What?" "You know," my dad added quickly, "since you're in the chair today, it might make the picture look off." Off. Like I was a smudge on their perfect image. I laughed, because what else could I do? "I can try to stand for a couple of minutes," I offered. "I'll hold on to something." They exchanged that look I'd come to dread. The one that said, "Don't make a scene." My mom shook her head gently. "Sweetheart, don't stress yourself. It's just a photo." But it wasn't just a photo. It was my final thread. The last proof I was still theirs. And they cut it like it was nothing. I wheeled back to my room and shut the door. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to process how years of being dismissed had led to being erased. I wasn't even worth editing into a photo. I was too inconvenient for their Christmas card. When the tears finally came, they didn't stop. No one checked on me. No one knocked. It was like I didn't exist. That night, I called the only person who ever made me feel safe, my grandmother, Helen. My dad's mom. The only person in my life who never once made me feel like I had to earn love. She picked up on the first ring. And as soon as I said, "Grandma," she knew something was wrong. Through sobs, I told her everything about the photo, about the way they looked at me like I was ruining their lives just by existing. And my beautiful, fierce grandmother just said, "I'm coming for you." She was out of town on a cruise, but she promised she'd be back in a few days, and when she was, she'd take me with her. "You're not a burden," she told me. "You never have been. And I'll prove it." That was the first time in months I fell asleep without feeling like the world was pressing down on my chest. I had something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The day Grandma Helen returned felt like sunlight breaking through weeks of storm clouds. She showed up at our front door unannounced, still wearing her travel coat, her hair up in that tight bun she always wore when she meant business. My parents were in the kitchen, sipping their afternoon coffee, Ethan scrolling his phone nearby. And then, everything stopped. My mom opened the door and instantly froze. "Helen," she said, confused, surprised, maybe even a little annoyed. But Grandma didn't flinch. She walked right in without being invited. "Where's Mia?" I heard her voice from upstairs and my heart nearly exploded. I wheeled myself out of my room as fast as I could, and when I reached the landing, she looked up at me and smiled, not the soft smile of comfort. No, this one was sharper. Protective. Like a shield. "There you are, sweetheart," she said, walking up and placing both hands on mine. "Go pack a bag." I blinked. "What? You're coming with me?" My mom stood behind her, mouth half open, clearly trying to decide how to handle this like it was some kind of PR disaster. "Mom," she said in that overly polite voice she used for strangers, "this isn't necessary. We've got everything under control." Grandma turned. Slowly. Deliberately. "Control?" she repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. "You mean like how you controlled the family Christmas card by deleting your daughter from it? Or maybe the way you controlled her food until she had to eat cereal in the bathroom like a stray animal? Or perhaps how you controlled the narrative so well that no one at church even knows she exists anymore?" My father stood now. "Let's not do this here." But Grandma wasn't letting it go. "No, we will do this here," she snapped. "You two have turned parenting into performance art. And Mia? She's been your scapegoat since the moment her needs stopped fitting your aesthetic." My mom folded her arms. "This isn't your house, Helen." "No," Grandma said. "It's Mia's house too. Or did you forget that when you decided to make her invisible?" Silence. So thick you could drown in it. Grandma turned to me. "Go pack, honey. We're going to my place." I hesitated, part of me still afraid. Afraid they'd stop me. Afraid I'd somehow get punished. But neither of them said a word. My mom just stared at the floor, and my dad rubbed the back of his neck like he wanted to disappear into it. So I packed. A duffel bag of clothes. My medication. My art journal. My favorite book. And just like that, I left. Grandma's house was small but full of warmth. There were plants in every window, the smell of cinnamon in the kitchen, and stacks of books and puzzles on every surface. She made up the guest room for me, stocked the fridge with all my favorites, not just diet versions. Real food. With taste. With kindness. She didn't hover. She didn't pity. She just existed beside me like an anchor. And after 2 days, I began to breathe again. She let me talk. Really talk. For hours. About the pain. The isolation. The way Ethan looked through me now like I was some awkward ghost in the corner of family photos. And then she dropped a bombshell. "You know," she said one evening while we sipped tea, "your grandfather left you something. A trust. He set it up before he passed, and your parents didn't want you to know." I blinked. "Why?" "Because it's in your name," she said. "And it transfers to you completely when you turn 18. I stared at her, stunned. "But why wouldn't they tell me?" Grandma looked at me with tired, honest eyes. "Because they never planned for you to be independent. They always treated you like an inconvenience. And independent daughters don't stick around to be scapegoated." That night, I sat awake in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling. For so long, I had believed that love from my parents came with terms. That I had to look a certain way, walk a certain way, be a certain way. But what if love didn't have to be earned? What if the only people worth keeping were the ones who never made you beg for space in the photo? A week passed. Then 2. I thought maybe they wouldn't reach out at all. Maybe I'd finally fallen far enough down their priority list that they wouldn't even bother pretending to care. But then the message came. My mother. She sent me a long, sickeningly sweet email, like syrup over poison. No apology. No accountability. Just warm words wrapped around a single idea. "We were thinking maybe you could join us for the Christmas brunch after all, just the family this time. We didn't want you to feel left out." Didn't want me to feel left out? I had to reread it twice. Not because I was confused, but because I was in awe of how shameless it was. They had removed me from the Christmas card because my wheelchair didn't fit the vibe. Now that Grandma Helen was involved, now that people were asking questions, suddenly, I was being re-invited. Not because they missed me, because they needed me to fix their image. The next morning, Grandma handed me a letter. It had been left in her mailbox, no postage, which meant my father had driven it over himself. Inside was a printed version of the same message, except this one included a postscript. "Please wear something festive and avoid bringing up the wheelchair if possible. We want to keep things light." That's when something in me snapped. Keep things light? You erased your daughter and now want her to play along in your fantasy again, but prettier, quieter, and less visible? I grabbed my phone. I opened a blank email. And I didn't hold back. Subject: I'm not coming back. You don't get to silence me anymore. You don't get to remove me from the photo, then ask me to smile for the camera when you need a prop to make yourselves look better. I'm not ashamed of my chair. I'm ashamed of you. I spent years thinking I needed to change for you to love me, to lose weight, to walk again, to disappear. But I don't need your love. I've found love in other places. In Grandma. In myself. In the life I'm building far away from your curated, filtered, artificial perfection. This Christmas, I'll be taking a photo of my own. One where I belong. One without you. I never got a response. And I don't need one. Weeks later, Grandma and I took our own holiday photo. Just the two of us, sitting in her cozy kitchen, mugs of cocoa in hand, my wheelchair wrapped in fairy lights. We printed it. Sent it to everyone on her side of the family. On the back, we wrote, "From the women who don't need permission to shine." I still have that photo framed on my desk. It reminds me of the moment I finally chose myself. The moment I stopped waiting to be invited into a story that never saw me as more than a mistake to crop out. Now, I write my own story. And in my version, I'm front and center. Wheelchair and all.